The whole world has had a bad year, which is not something that happens quite often. So maybe just this photo of a really happy guy in a bright yellow taxi cab on a beautiful day in New York City is a welcome change.
2020 has provided a remarkable array of stories for Reuters photographers around the world, from the pandemic and all that it brought in its wake, to civil unrest and the Black Lives Matter movement. And then, of course, came the US presidential election. Some 50 freelance and staff photographers spent Election Day sending pictures directly from camera to the Reuters global desks. Andrew Keddy was one of those photographers. Andrew, really good to see you. Thanks so much for speaking with us today. Before we come on to Election Day, I want to ask you how you prepared for this election. Did you have a strategy, or was it more a case of getting out there and seeing what you could get?
So, I looked at where would I have to go to make sure I covered both sides equally. So I live and work in Manhattan, obviously a very liberal, progressive part of the city. And then also there's a part of the city called Staten Island, which is famously very, very Republican. They call it the Red Borough. So I made sure that I was over there, and I was just hitting the streets over there as well, hanging out in barbershops, pizza shops, meeting people in their houses even, just like trying to meet people away from the rally scene and just talk to people about, where they live, where they work, where they grew up, what do their parents do, trying to get a really good nuanced sense of, what they're about.
One of the photos that you shot, the one that's probably been used the most, was the cab driver in Union Square. Why do you think viewers reacted so powerfully to that photo?
I think, 2020 has been a really, really hard year for New Yorkers, for Americans. I mean, the whole world has had a bad year, which is not something that happens quite often. And so many of the images have been, like body bags and mass graves and burning police cars and tear gas. So maybe just this photo of a really happy guy in a bright yellow taxi cab on a beautiful day in New York City is a welcome change.
Having said that, of course, another of the enduring images from you is of a lady weeping in Times Square, weeping with happiness, I believe. But again, why do you think so powerful?
It depicts the relief I think a lot of people felt with just the election cycle being over. And it's been such an uncertain year. Like, we don't know what's happening with coronavirus. Is there going to be a vaccine? When are the lockdowns going to lift? So finally having something conclusive, I think a lot of people felt that relief. It was a long election cycle. It always is in America, but this one felt particularly hard and particularly long. And maybe just having, something conclusive, a lot of people related to that.
As you've said, you shot people from both sides, in Staten Island, in Manhattan. What was the most memorable for you, would you say? Or do you think it's the combination of having both those sides that made this so memorable for you? It
was really memorable for me, like getting out of this little, the bubble that I live in Manhattan, as I was saying earlier, and going to Staten Island and meeting people, meeting the neighbors. It was really nice for me to go and do that and meet people and take, portraits of them in their house or in front of the Verrazano Bridge, or like shoot scenes of Staten Island, which is a place I don't often go to. That was a really, really good experience for me. But yeah, back to the lady weeping in Times Square. My shift was meant to be over. I wasn't meant to be there at all. My boss had said, you're done, go home. So I went to leave. And then just as I was about to leave, she was like, wait a second, we don't really have any good close-ups of, good emotion or anything. It's a lot of wide shots, like you were saying earlier. Dude, I'm in Times Square. There's about to be an acceptance speech of the president-elect. I'm not going to go home. I'm going to stay and watch this thing. So I went back downstairs and really looked closely at people's faces, because they were all looking up at the screen, and then saw these two girls that were reacting like Beatlemania. They were really excited and relieved and hugging and almost crying already. So I was like, all right, this is it. I'll just like look at these two girls and try to get something great. And yeah, it was cool. Watched them, watch the speech, got a lot of photos of them. And then after that went up and was like, hey, by the way, I took photos of you guys that whole time. Can I get your names? And yeah, it was great.
Good. Andrew, look, I'm going to stop it there. Thank you for all of your photographs, both sides, as we've talked about. And thank you very much indeed for talking with us on The Debrief today.
My pleasure.